Welcome back, Officers Republics, your Coruscant Honorable Police Chief APGAINS. As you can see right here, our BAM is finally Relic 0. I don't know if he's going to come up more than that, but he is in fact Relic 0, which is awesome for a very specific reason, for a very specific mistake that I've been making, that I've seen a lot of people making. You know, we do roster reviews as often as we can, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come check us out. And it's a pretty impactful mistake, especially in the current GAC landscape of having to punch up millions of GP. You oftentimes don't want to leave these holes open for your opponent to kind of play around with, right? So what am I talking about? Well, let's start with ships, because ships are the most important part of GAC, as we all know. So we're going to start at the most important. We're going to filter down and figure out how this problem kind of happened and how we can alleviate it. So as you guys know, we have our fleets, which you can generally tell who has what fleet depending on what capital ship they have. Because without the capital ship, these fleets kind of suck, right? Like if you have the Profundity fleet, but without the Profundity, that's not doing too much. That's just a HOM-1 fleet, right? If you have the Malevolence fleet without the Malevolence, it's not the Malevolence fleet. It's, you know, probably an Executrix or HOM-1 Geonosian fleet, right? Yada, yada, yada. We all know that the capital ships are great. And a lot of us, myself included, and this is why I'm actually making this video, because I've kind of gone back and fixed this mistake literally just now, just playing on my own time. I wasn't planning on making a video or anything. I was just like, oh shit, let me fix this real quick. And I was like, oh, this is pretty important. Let's do a video. So a lot of times we, and by we, I mean myself included, look at our fleets and we say, hey, you know, my Executor's at R8, my Malevolence and my Negotiator are looking pretty, you know, this is fine, right? You know, I should maybe work on a little bit of Finalizer or something like that, but I'm thinking the fleets are fine. And then I go into my battles against my opponents who are 8 or 9 million GP. As you can see, we're finally approaching 6 million GP. We'll be an endgame player maybe in a month or so, maybe 2. And I'm thinking, like, where do I need to improve? Because I have great fleets, and my opponents also have great fleets, but my fleets are not performing as well as I think they should. And here's where I made the mistake. I had things missing, right? These were incomplete fleets. Not incomplete fleets in the sense that there were ships missing, because all the right ships were there. And oftentimes all the right ships were there and the characters were relics. But what was the problem? Well, there's a ton of different problems, right? My Emperor Shuttle, for instance, on my Empire fleet is not 5 stars, which means I can't have the tier 2 of the reinforcement ability. My BAM, until recently, was not relict. He was like gear 8. So my Razor Crest was not doing a whole heck of a lot and dying really quickly on my Executor, and that's my primary defensive fleet right there. So that was a huge gaping hole in my defense. My Rebel ships, who even though they're not fantastic for my Profundity, like my Phoenix fleets, if I can pull them up right here, until recently, I had like 1.5 million unapplied ability materials. These were like tier 4, and because this isn't a fleet that I use very often, and oftentimes you can still win even without the ships themselves being fantastic, this is something that I completely overlooked, right? My Phantom and my Ghost both had unapplied ability materials. Now, I'm not going to go and gear up my Phoenix to relics because I'm not an idiot, but, you know, if I wanted, I could throw shitty 6-dot mods on my pilots or something like that, or at least on my Hera, right, to make that ship a little bit better. That being said, most of my pilots don't, or didn't, and still don't have 6-dot mods, which means I'm leaving out speed against my opponents, right? There's 1,000,001 things that kind of add up to making the fleet whole. Yes, there's the capital ship. Yes, there's the relic level and ability materials and mods of the pilot of the capital ship. The stars of the capital ship, the relic of the capital ship, right? That's very important. Then you have the stars of all the other fleets, right? You have the relic of the pilot. You have the mods of the pilot. You have the ability materials. You have the order in which they're placed, because some ships, like for instance in the Empire, some ships have a higher reinforcement priority than others. So like the way your Gauntlet and your Imperial Shuttle are positioned is important, because sometimes you want one to come out versus the other, because I think these are 2 of the examples that have the same reinforcement priority between the Shuttle and the Starfighter. Or maybe it's the Interceptor. And don't quote me on that. It's been a long day. Just ignore the fact that I mentioned which one of those. But there are plenty of ships who have reinforcement priority, so having that set up. And if you neglect 1 or 2 of these things, it's not really, in the grand scheme of things, going to be that impactful to the overall fleet. But what is going to happen is if you let too many of these things pile up, it's just going to compound on itself, and you're going to find points where, like, my Malevolence fleet, you know, If my opponent's scouting me out just at a cursory glance and they're just looking like, all right, just got a Malevolence Fleet. Oh, he's got the Malevolence Fleet. Okay. Now, besides the obvious point of my Geonosians not being relicked, which you guys all know I will never do, maybe right before the game ends. But even my Hyena Bomber, my Vulture Droid are 5 stars. Like, this is not a top-tier Malevolence Fleet. And now there is an argument to be made, and one that you guys will make in the comment section, and I hear you, about the efficiency of certain fleets, because less and less in characters and now more and more in fleets, efficiency has become very important just because of how the fleet meta has shifted. So while this on offense will get the job done for what it needs to, right? This Malevolence Fleet right here is atrocious. This is what you expect a Malevolence Fleet of a 2 million GP player to be. And that's because when I was 2 million GP, this is exactly what my Malevolence Fleet looked like. So there is that argument, and I will not discredit you guys who are going to argue against me that, efficiency of fleets and efficiency of characters is something we need to, keep in consideration. I totally get that. But this general point is outside of efficiency, right? Like, let's, like the classic Empire fleet, for instance, right? When my opponents were 8 million GP, this fleet worked wonders. A 4-star Emperor Shuttle wasn't getting the good reinforcement. Real Guard's not here. The Interceptor was 5 stars. It's now 6 stars, thankfully. This was like a 3-star. We're approaching 4-star on our second sister now because, we're starting to farm up and gear up our second sister for this exact point. The Interceptor being the most efficient item in the entire game, right? Like, this fleet was doing great against 8 million GP. Now that my opponents are 9 million GP, and I'm only about 100 or 200,000 GP more than I was when I was facing 8 million GP players, this is not going to cut it, right? Like, to a certain point, it's very, very beneficial to have super efficient characters and fleets. Super, super beneficial to have very efficient characters and fleets. But eventually you get to the certain point where you have to move past efficiency and you just need to be good. You know what I mean? Like, if we were to pull up like GAC squads or something like that, let me actually just pull up my squads. I thought I was in squads. Like, let's just say, I don't know. Let's just pick a random, like this, for instance, right? This is an efficiency team, right? Like, I have this as a requirement. This I just happen to have for whatever reason. And these 3 characters are atrocious. And while fully relic, this isn't the worst team in the world because Newt Gunray is a pain in the ass. Stortica hits hard. Jango Fett hits hard. Dooku's annoying. Ventress should be on Night Sisters, but I don't have a Night Sister team. Like, this is not a terrible team, and it's a very efficient team and a team that I used to be able to use very well. But now I've gotten to the point where, there's not going to be a single team on defense that I'm going to fight that this team is going to be applicable for. And if I throw it on defense, I mean, it's going to die anyway. So we kind of, at certain points throughout the game, at the 1, 2, 3, 4, wherever million GP you are, you're eventually going to have to come into a point where some ships, some characters are going to need to evolve from, say, being an efficiency team to maybe I need to reconsider and relic my Newt Gunray, move my Newt Gunray over to my General Grievous team. Maybe I need to move, Jango over to a Maul-Delorian team now that I have Maul. Maybe I need to actually invest in Canderous and go like Maul, Bam, Canderous, Jango, Bo-Katan or something like that, right? Like, I can't be efficient. I got to be good. And that's the point of the video today. The point of the video is literally just sometimes you can get away with efficiency, but if you punch up enough, sometimes you have to convert efficiency into good. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I love you. Subscribe to make my ego bigger. And as always, I love you, and I'll see you later.